Bill 20, the carbon tax, has just cleared Committee of the Whole in the legislature. Now, Committee of the Whole is the final opportunity for amendments to be made to bills before they become law. And the NDP shot down some really passionate attempts by the opposition parties to make this catastrophic tax on everything just a little less painful for everyday Albertans. One amendment in particular was brought forward by Wildrose MLA Angela Pitt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am absolutely pleased to introduce this amendment. It reads as such: Mrs. Pitt, I myself move that Bill 20, the Climate Leadership Implementation Act, be amended in Schedule 1 and Section 19 by adding the following after subsection 1. 1.1. The purposes and uses prescribed under subsection 1 for which a rebate may be paid must include charitable activities engaged in by registered charities. Now, Madam Chair, this is an amendment that I feel that all sides of the House can support. This is certainly something to strengthen the bill, to show our commitment to the most vulnerable people in Alberta, by really protecting them and promoting the work that charities do in our province, and really supporting them in the activities that they engage in. And I just would like to stress, Madam Chair, that in this climate, this economic crisis that we are in, there are so many of us here in Alberta that rely on charitable organizations for their day-to-day living, for the food banks that we rely on, Meals on Wheels. There's so many charities that need our support, and this is an opportunity for this House to show these hardworking individuals that we support them, that we've got their back. So I encourage, I will plead with members of this House to please support this amendment. Thank you very much.
So Pitt was trying to get an exemption for Alberta charities from the carbon tax. Struggling Alberta families are relying on these charities in the worst economic downturn in a generation. In fact, more and more people than ever are relying on charities just to get by. And now those overburdened Alberta charities are about to see an added operational cost for heating, travel, groceries, and electricity. Food banks all across the province are bending under the strain of increased demand. Some, like the one in Fort McMurray, have seen a nearly 75% increase in demand year over year. And food banks are seeing fewer cash donations, and those dollars that they do get won't go as far as they used to when a carbon tax is added to the cost of groceries. Oxford House, a charity that helps recovering addicts live independently, says that they will have to close a bed space in one of their 3 houses just to offset the carbon tax. These are real people that could be hurt by the carbon tax. But the NDP would not support Amendment 3. Just watch Environment Minister Shannon Phillips giving 2 ridiculous and less than enthusiastic reasons for why the NDP would not be exempting Alberta charities from the carbon tax. Just watch.
The panel's advice was helpful, was that many of these abatement issues can be addressed through efficiency programming. A straight exemption would become very administratively difficult, if not impossible on some level. So we, given the position under the Tax Act and so on. So that is the choice that this government has made based on good advice, based on evidence, what's happened in other jurisdictions, Madam Chair. And so for that reason, we will be voting against this amendment.
So Phillips says the food banks can cut costs by being more efficient. Has she ever been to a food bank? They're mostly volunteer run, and they take costs very seriously because they are committed to feeding as many poor people as they can and keeping costs low. It's not like they're leaving the lights on and the fridge door open a little bit when they go home from work every night. And Phillips' second excuse is that exempting charities will cause too much administration. Really? The NDP are worried about bureaucratic growth? They never met a bureaucrat they didn't like. In fact, the NDP created an entire bureaucracy in Bill 20 called Energy Efficiency Alberta to teach us all how to, turn the light switches off when we leave a room and to put a sweater on instead of turning up the thermostat when we're cold. So Phillips' excuses about bureaucratic nightmares just don't hold water. In fact, none of her reasons for doing any of this ever do. The NDP voted down Wildrose Amendment 3, in effect, taking food out of the mouths of struggling Alberta families by making the cost of running food banks and charities like Meals on Wheels more expensive. And now we know it will take shelter beds away from addicts who need them. This is why I'm utterly convinced environmentalists hate people and see them as parasites on Mother Gaia as it hurtles through space. Because they'd rather children be homeless and hungry in an attempt to tax the air we all breathe. And now remember, the NDP like to say that they are the party that helps the poor. They care about the poor. They're social justice warriors and all that garbage. They're self-styled advocates for the vulnerable, like NDP MLA Marie Renault says she is. Well, we all just saw who really cares about the impact of the carbon tax on the poor. And it was us, mean old conservatives. The NDP don't care about the poor. They only care about the votes of the poor and the vulnerable every 4 years. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.